What happens when one of Hollywood's most respected actresses comes face-to-face with a talk show host who refuses to show basic respect? Today, we're diving into the explosive confrontation that left Kate Winslet walking off set and Joy Behar looking absolutely stunned. This is a story about professional boundaries, personal dignity, and what happens when those lines get crossed in the most public way possible. Make sure to subscribe and let me know in the comments what you think about how this whole situation unfolded. The tension in the studio was palpable from the moment Kate Winslet walked onto the View set. Fresh off her latest critically acclaimed performance, she was supposed to be there for a routine promotional interview. What nobody expected was how quickly things would spiral completely out of control. "Welcome back to The View, everyone," Whoopi Goldberg announced with her usual warm smile. "We're here with the incredibly talented Kate Winslet, who's starring in what critics are calling her most powerful performance yet." Kate settled into her chair, radiating the kind of graceful confidence that had made her a household name. "Thank you so much for having me, Whoopi. It's always wonderful to be here." The first few minutes proceeded normally. Sarah Haynes asked thoughtful questions about Kate's preparation for the role, and Tsunami host complimented her on the film's important social message. Kate was articulate and engaging, discussing her craft with the passion that had earned her an Oscar. But then, Joy Behar leaned forward with that familiar smirk that regular viewers knew meant trouble was coming. "So, Kate," Joy began, her voice dripping with false sweetness, "I have to ask about something that's been bothering me. You've been in Hollywood for what, 30 years now? And you're still playing these young romantic roles. Don't you think it's time to accept that maybe those days are behind you?" The studio fell silent. Kate's smile faltered for just a moment before she composed herself. "I'm sorry, Joy, but I'm not quite sure what you mean by that." "Oh, come on," Joy continued, waving her hand dismissively. "You're not getting any younger. Shouldn't you be transitioning to more age-appropriate roles, playing mothers and grandmothers instead of trying to compete with actresses half your age?" Whoopi shifted uncomfortably in her seat, clearly sensing the conversation, taking an unwelcome turn. "Joy, I think—" No, let me finish." Joy interrupted, her voice getting sharper. "I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. There's something almost desperate about older actresses clinging to roles meant for women in their 20s and 30s. It's not a good look, Kate." The color drained from Kate's face, but her voice remained steady. "Joy, I think there's been a misunderstanding. The character I'm playing is actually a woman in her 40s dealing with very adult themes. This isn't about age. It's about telling meaningful stories." "One." Joy let out a harsh laugh. "Meaningful stories, please. You're playing dress-up and pretending to be someone you're not anymore. That's what actors do. I get it. But there's a line between acting and delusion." "Delusion?" Kate repeated, her voice barely above a whisper. The hurt in her eyes was unmistakable. "Joy, that's enough," Whoopi said firmly. But Joy was on a roll now. "Look, I'm not trying to be mean here," Joy said, though her tone suggested otherwise. "I'm just being honest. Hollywood has this problem where they refuse to let women age gracefully. And when actresses like you keep taking these inappropriate roles, you're part of the problem." Kate took a deep breath, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "I have to say, Joy, I'm quite taken aback by this line of questioning. I came here to discuss a film that explores themes of resilience, identity, and human connection. The age of my character is completely irrelevant to the story we're telling." "Is it though?" Joy pressed on. "Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like another case of Hollywood trying to sell us a fantasy that women over 40 can still be leading ladies. It's not realistic, Kate." The camera captured every micro-expression on Kate's face as she processed what was happening. Here she was, one of the most acclaimed actresses of her generation, being told by a talk show host that she was too old to do her job effectively. "Joy," Kate said slowly, her British accent becoming more pronounced as it always did when she was emotional. "I have to ask you something. Would you ever say this to a male actor? Would you tell George Clooney or Brad Pitt that they are too old for romantic roles?" Joy scoffed. "That's completely different, and you know it." "How is it different?" Kate asked, leaning forward slightly. "How is it different, Joy? Men age differently than women do. They get distinguished. We just get old. That's reality." The studio was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Even the crew members behind the cameras had stopped moving, transfixed by the unfolding disaster. Kate stared at Joy for a long moment, her expression unreadable. When she finally spoke, her voice was controlled, but there was fire underneath. "That is the most archaic, sexist thing I've heard in a very long time. And coming from a woman, it's particularly disappointing. Oh, please. Joy rolled her eyes. Don't lecture me about sexism. I've been fighting that battle longer than you've been alive. Then why are you perpetuating it? Kate shot back, her composure finally beginning to crack. Why are you sitting here telling me that my value as an actress expires at a certain age? Why are you reducing my 3 decades of work to whether or not I look young enough to be desirable? Joy's face flushed red. I never said anything about desirability. I'm talking about realism. No, Joy, Kate said, her voice rising slightly. You're talking about ageism and sexism, and you're doing it on national television. While I'm sitting right here, the tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. Whoopi kept looking between her co-host and her guest, clearly trying to figure out how to salvage what had become a complete disaster. You know what? Joy said, throwing her hands up. If you can't handle honest criticism about your career choices, maybe you shouldn't be doing interviews. Kate's eyes widened in disbelief. Honest criticism. Joy, you've spent the last 10 minutes attacking me personally and professionally for absolutely no reason. This isn't criticism. It's cruelty. Cruelty. Joy laughed bitterly. Oh, that's rich coming. From someone who lives in a bubble of privilege. You think a little honest feedback is cruel. Try living in the real world, sweetheart. Kate's jaw dropped at the condescending tone. Sweetheart, did you just call me sweetheart? Yes, I did. Joy said defiantly. Because you're acting like a spoiled child who can't handle the truth. The other hosts looked mortified. Sarah Haynes tried to jump in. Maybe we should know, Kate said firmly, holding up her hand. I want to hear this, Joy. Please explain to me what truth you think you're delivering here. Joy leaned back in her chair with a smug expression. The truth is that Hollywood is obsessed with youth, and instead of fighting that system, you're enabling it. You're taking roles away from younger actresses who could actually bring authenticity to these parts. Taking roles away. Kate repeated incredulously. Joy, do you understand how casting works? Do you think I'm out there stealing scripts from 25-year-olds? Crime. I think you're making choices that feed into a toxic system, Joy replied. And when someone points that out, you cry sexism instead of taking responsibility. Kate's composure was hanging by a thread. Let me get this straight. You're saying that I, as a woman, am responsible for Hollywood's ageism because I continue to work as an actress? I'm saying you could use your platform to advocate for better representation instead of just taking whatever role pays the most. The accusation hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Kate stared at Joy with a mixture of disbelief and growing anger. Whatever role pays the most. Kate's voice was dangerously quiet. Joy, do you have any idea what you're talking about? I know you're not exactly hurting for money, Joy shot back. So, why not be more selective? Why not leave some roles for actresses who actually need them? Whoopi finally found her voice. Joy, I really think we need to. Joy. No, Whoopi, Kate said, her eyes never leaving Joy's face. I want to address this. Joy, since you seem to know so much about my career decisions, let me educate you. The film we're here to discuss today. I took a significant pay cut to make it because I believed in the story. The director is a first-time female filmmaker and half the crew were women under 30. But please tell me more about how I'm hurting other women. Joy's expression faltered slightly, but she pressed on. One film doesn't erase decades of questionable choices. Questionable choices. Kate's voice was getting stronger, more forceful. Joy, I've spent my entire career choosing projects that challenge me as an artist and tell important stories. I've worked with female directors, supported independent films, and used whatever influence I have to create opportunities for others. What exactly have you done? I don't need to justify my career to you, Joyce snapped. No, but you seem to think I need to justify mine to you, Kate replied. You've spent this entire interview attacking my age, my choices, and my character. And for what? What is the point of this? Joy's face was getting redder by the minute. The point is that someone needs to have these conversations. Someone needs to call out the hypocrisy. Quote, what hypocrisy? Kate demanded. Please explain to me where the hypocrisy is in an actress continuing to act. The hypocrisy is pretending that age doesn't matter when it clearly does. Joy said, you can't play a college student anymore, Kate. Accept it. And a musicus. Kate let out a short, bitter laugh. A college student. Joy, when was the last time you actually saw one of my films? Because I haven't played a college student in over 20 years. You know what I mean? Joy said dismissively. No, I really don't, Kate replied. Because everything you've said today has been based on assumptions and stereotypes rather than facts. You haven't asked me about my craft, my preparation, or the themes of this film. You've just attacked me personally. The studio audience, which had been silent throughout the exchange, was starting to murmur. Some were clearly uncomfortable with what they were witnessing. I'm not attacking you, Joy insisted. I'm having a real conversation about real issues. Real issues. Kate's voice rose. Joy, the real issue is that you've invited me onto your show under the pretense of discussing my work. And instead, you've spent the entire time trying to tear me down. That's not journalism. That's not entertainment. That's just mean-spirited. Mean-spirited? Joy scoffed. You're being way too sensitive. This is how interviews work. No, Joy, Kate said firmly. This is not how interviews work. This is how bullies work. You've been condescending, dismissive, and outright rude from the moment you opened your mouth. Joy's eyes flashed with anger. Excuse me, did you just call me a bully? If the shoe fits, Kate replied without hesitation. The tension in the room reached a breaking point. Joy's face was now completely red and her voice became shrill. You have some nerve coming onto my show and insulting me like this. Joy sputtered. Your show. Kate raised an eyebrow. I thought this was The View, not the Joy Behar show. And I'm not insulting you, Joy. I'm responding to your behavior. My behavior has been perfectly professional. Joy protested. Professional. Kate's voice was incredulous. Joy, you called me sweetheart, questioned my intelligence, attacked my career choices, and suggested I'm too old to do my job. In what universe is that professional? The other hosts were looking increasingly uncomfortable. Tsunami host tried to intervene. Maybe we could. No, Kate said, her voice cutting through the attempted interruption. I want to finish this, Joy. I came here today excited to talk about a project I'm passionate about instead. I've been subjected to what can only be described as a character assassination. Why? What did I do to deserve this treatment? Joy's response was immediate and telling. You didn't do anything. This is just how television works. If you can't handle the heat, don't do interviews. Kate stared at her in amazement. So, this was intentional. You deliberately set out to make this as unpleasant as possible. I set out to have an honest conversation, Joy replied. If that made you uncomfortable, that's not my problem. Honest conversation. Kate's voice was rising again. Joy, there's been nothing honest about this. You've been cruel, unprofessional, and frankly embarrassing to watch. Embarrassing to watch? Joy's voice reached a new level of shrillness. You're the one having a meltdown on live television because you can't handle a few tough questions. Kate's eyes blazed with fury. Tough questions? Joy, asking about my process, my inspiration, or my collaboration with the director would be tough questions. What you've done is launch a personal attack disguised as an interview. Oh, please. Joy waved her hand dismissively. You Hollywood types are all the same. You expect everyone to kiss your feet and tell you how wonderful you are. Kiss my feet. Kate's voice was deadly quiet now. Joy, I expected basic human decency. I expected to be treated with the same respect you'd show any other guest. Clearly, that was asking too much. Joy leaned forward aggressively. You know what your problem is, Kate. You've been surrounded by yes-men for so long that you can't handle anyone who doesn't worship you. My problem? Kate stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. My problem is sitting right across from me. You've been nothing but hostile, condescending, and unprofessional since the moment I sat down. Sit down, Joy commanded. We're not done here. Kate looked down at her with cold fury. Oh, we're absolutely done here. I don't know what kind of show you think you're running, Joy. But this isn't journalism. It's not entertainment. It's just cruelty for the sake of cruelty. You're being ridiculous. Joy snapped. This is exactly the kind of prima donna behavior I was talking about. Prima donna behavior. Kate's voice carried across the entire studio. Joy, I have sat here for 20 minutes while you've insulted my age, my career, my intelligence, and my character. I have responded with more patience and grace than you deserve. If standing up for myself makes me a prima donna, then so be it. Whoopi finally stood up, trying to regain control. Ladies, let's all take a breath here. No, Whoopi, Kate said, never taking her eyes off Joy. I want everyone to understand what just happened here. I came on this show in good faith to discuss my work. Instead, I was ambushed by someone who clearly had a personal agenda. Joy shot to her feet. Personal agenda? You think this is personal, isn't it? Kate challenged. Because I can't think of any other reason why you would treat a guest this way. What did I ever do to you, Joy? You didn't do anything to me, Joy admitted, her voice getting louder. But someone needs to hold you people accountable. You people. Kate's eyebrows shot up. Who exactly are you people? Joy. Entitled celebrities who think they are above criticism. Joy spat. Kate shook her head in disbelief. This wasn't criticism, Joy. This was a hit job. And the fact that you can't tell the difference says everything about your character. My character? Joy was practically shouting. Now, you don't know anything about my character. Oh, I know enough. Kate replied coolly. I know that you think it's acceptable to humiliate guests on national television. I know that you think ageism and sexism are valid forms of journalism. And I know that when called out on your behavior, you double down instead of showing even a shred of professionalism or humanity. The studio was in complete chaos now. Producers were frantically signaling from behind the cameras, and the other hosts looked mortified. Joy's face was purple with rage. How dare you lecture me about professionalism? I've been doing this job since before you were famous. Then you should know better. Kate said simply. Experience isn't an excuse for bad behavior, Joy. If anything, it makes this worse. Get out. Joy suddenly screamed. Just get out. Kate stared at her for a moment, then began removing her microphone. You know what, Joy? You're absolutely right. I can't handle this. I can't handle watching a grown woman throw a tantrum because she's been called out on her unprofessional behavior. I'm not throwing a tantrum, Joy shrieked, which only proved Kate's point. This entire exchange will be watched by millions of people, Kate said as she carefully placed her microphone on the table. And they'll see exactly who you really are. They'll see that when faced with any pushback, you become abusive and hostile. I am not abusive, Joy yelled. Kate looked around the studio, making eye contact with the cameras. I want to apologize to anyone watching this. You tuned in, expecting to hear about art, about storytelling, about the creative process. Instead, you witnessed something truly ugly. That's not your fault, and it's certainly not what you deserved. She turned back to Joy one last time. And Joy, I genuinely hope you get the help you clearly need because this behavior isn't normal. It isn't professional and it isn't acceptable. Don't you dare psychoanalyze me. Joy screamed as Kate began walking toward the exit. Kate paused at the edge of the set and looked back. I'm not psychoanalyzing you, Joy. I'm just observing what everyone can see. You're out of control. I am in complete control. Joy bellowed, which was perhaps the most ironic statement of the entire debacle. Kate shook her head sadly. No, Joy, you're really not. And with that, Kate Winslet walked off the View set, leaving behind a stunned studio audience and a host who was still screaming at her retreating figure. Whoopi tried desperately to regain control. We'll be right back after this commercial break, she said. But her voice was shaky and uncertain. As the cameras continued to roll, capturing Joy still ranting to herself. It was clear that something unprecedented had just happened. A respected actress had been pushed to her absolute limit by a host who had completely lost sight of basic human decency. The incident would be talked about for years to come, not because of any film promotion, but because it perfectly captured what happens when professionalism meets its complete opposite. So, what do you think? Was Kate right to walk out, or should she have stayed and tried to salvage the interview? Let me know in the comments below.